Five-star shooting guard Braylon Mullins talked about Indiana, North Carolina, and UConn. Well, what did he have to say about the Hoosiers?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Well, thank you so much for being here again, making this truly your first listen, your first watch every single day. Shout out to all of my everydayers. You are the reason this show is so successful. So thank you so much for your support on audio, on video, and a reminder that this show is free to you every single day, Monday through Friday. So thank you for being here. Well, we continue to get more updates and spice up the recruitment of Braylon Mullins, if you will. And I know we're all sitting on pins and needles waiting on this guy to commit somewhere. And whether it's Indiana, whether it's UConn, or whether it's North Carolina, one fan base will be excited. The other two will be extremely disappointed. We all know how this works. And for us Indiana fans, we've been excited for one, right? We got Trent Sisley in the back, super pumped for him. And then we were disappointed about Jalen Harrelson. We're still waiting on Mullins and Reeby and Michael Brown Jr. Like, there's still a lot of fish in the sea right now. But it seems like the one we're all focused on, because it's the one that we know is coming very soon, is the five-star shooting guard Braylon Mullins. He's a top 20 recruit in the 2025 class. You know all the numbers on this kid. Well, he talked to 247 Sports, their national site at 247 Sports, and had some comments about Indiana, UConn, and North Carolina. And the question we're all asking, is he coming to Indiana? And, well, what did he say? What did he have to say about all three of these programs? Again, these are quotes from 247 Sports. He sat down and talked with them, one of their national writers, Deshaun London. So you can go check this out for yourself. He did not talk to me personally. I'm not claiming that. So he talked to 247 Sports. And he talks about all three of these programs. And he continues to go on and talk how he has good relationships and how he's looking forward to what they have to offer and those types of things. So we'll start with what he said for North Carolina. He says, quote, "I have a really great relationship with Coach Davis. I talk with him once every other day. When I went to campus, I saw how beautiful it is. They play an upbeat tempo, and I want to learn how to play like that. That's why they're on one of the schools I picked. I would have to bet on myself if I go there because they're a little far away from my hometown. It's definitely something to look at." And he talks about, and he was asked about North Carolina picking up Derek Dixon, one of the combo guards in the 2025 class. They asked him about it. I'm glad they did. He said, when it comes to Derek's commitment, doesn't change anything. You're going to have to work regardless who's there. If you want to play or be in the starting lineup, I'm going to have to compete. Derek is a good player and a good person. He'll do well there. I don't have a problem with him being there at all. So, had good things to say about North Carolina. Likes the coaches, likes the coaching staff, likes the style of play. A little bit farther from home, right? But overall, he likes the place and he knows he's going to have to work. Here's what he says about UConn. Again, this is from 247 Sports. Quote, "I have a really good relationship with Coach Hurley. They were one of my first official visits. Says it's a little hard to remember what I did on that visit, but he tells me I'm not just a want, but a need. He says I can be in and out in 10 months if I work at it," which that's a heck of a recruiting pitch. "With them, I would have to take that chance on myself as well because it's really far. So if you get homesick, you get homesick." Outside of that, Coach Luke Murray has done a hell of a job recruiting me as well. I talk to him every day, and he came in the other day. They're one of my top schools. So again, he talks about the possibility of being homesick. He talks about the obstacle of being further away from home. Interesting. That recruiting pitch of saying, man, if you come and play at UConn, you're in and out of here in 10 months, you're playing at the next level. And they can prove that. That's fantastic. That is a huge, huge selling point for Dan Hurley and UConn. But you're all asking, okay, well, Jacob, what did he say about Indiana? Well, I'm going to tell you. Quote, they're an hour down the road, so they're not far from home. I also have a really good relationship with all the coaches. Coach Woodson is changing up the play style. How many times have we heard that? That's good news, Indiana fans. He goes on to say they used to play inside out, but now they're using the guards more. They say I can play more of the point with the ball in my hands, but also have to get better playing off the ball, so I'll have that opportunity as well. And that's what I want to dive into. He brings up the fact that it's an hour from home, that he's an Indiana kid. If he gets in trouble or needs some help, he's got his family there. They can come and watch him every single game at home inside of Assembly Hall. That's important to him. Can we establish that? That's important to Braylon Mullins. He said it right there in all three of these quotes for 247 Sports that it's important on where the location and where he goes to school. So don't let that get away here. But he's also mentioned, and this is not the first time we've heard this from him or other recruits, and it's a big, big deal. Indiana's changing the way they play. This program is changing our identity because we have to, because we're playing old school basketball right now. And if you want to get big time recruits like Braylon Mullins, you've got to change. You've got to play to their strength. You have to formulate your game around them, because if you don't, somebody else will. And that's the bottom line. And so it's good to hear that Braylon knows that. They're telling him that. And it seems like he doesn't just know it, he understands it. And he understands that, hey, they're going to let me play with the basketball in my hands, but I'm not going to be just a ball-out point guard. I have to be able to play off the ball as well. And I respect that from Mike Woodson and this Indiana staff. I respect the fact that they said, look, man, we want you to be the focal point here, but you got to learn how to play your role. You're a shooting guard. You got to learn how to play off the ball a little bit, because we want to bring in other talent too. Michael Brown. We want to have guys on the roster like Miles Rice and Cannon Carlisle that can play with you. That's important. This Indiana staff is thinking bigger. We're thinking bigger than just one or two players. Heck, you got Trent Sisley on the team. You've got him in your recruiting class right now. So I'm glad that they're telling him, hey, you can play dominant with the ball, but you better be ready to play off the ball. I'm not going to read too much into the comments in terms of where he's going to go, because we don't know. He said it's sometime in October. He's about to go on fall break, I think, and then he said he'll start thinking about it then. It's going to be a couple of weeks. So just keep that in mind. But we got some updates and some insight on how he's thinking, and you can do whatever you want with those comments, Hoosier fans. I'm just giving you the information and giving you my own reactions to it. And I'm telling you, Indiana's still in the mix. I think we're right there with UConn. I think North Carolina's 3. That's my personal opinion. I don't know anything. I'm just telling you, it's coming eventually. He's going to commit somewhere, and Indiana's in that top 3. Braylon Mullins speaks on Indiana, North Carolina, UConn. Commitment coming soon for the 5-star shooting guard. Well, coming up in the next segment on Locked on Hoosiers, Oumar Ballo is starting to receive a little preseason hype around the Big Ten. We'll talk about what he is seeing, or what others are seeing in him, and what he can do for Indiana this upcoming season. More on that coming up next on Locked on Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked on Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is my go-to ticketing app. I've told you this every day, or as you know this. I don't go anywhere else. I don't use any other site. Game Time has been my go-to spot for almost a year now since I joined Locked On. Their new feature called Game Time Picks, it makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. It literally does it for you. I use it for sports, comedy, music, theater, you name it, they got it on the Game Time app. I tell all my friends, all my family, and of course, my bestest friends, I tell you, my Locked on Hoosiers faithful, and you should be using the Game Time app. College football season right now, NFL season, basketball right around the corner. Game Time is where you need to go. When you think tickets, think Game Time. Don't go anywhere else. They're all in pricing. When you toggle this feature, it's my favorite part. It shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. And my other favorite part is getting a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy with their legitimate seat views. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Welcome back to Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you for being here. Shout out to all of my everydayers, those of you that come back Monday through Friday each and every day. We're pumping out a ton of content over here on the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel and Locked On Hoosiers on Twitter. So be sure you follow us on there as well. We've got videos, we've got reels, we've got polls, we've got reactions, we've got all sorts of stuff going out for you guys. And so hopefully you are enjoying the content, audio side and the video side. And so a few things that you can do really quickly to help us out here. If you're an audio listener on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever site you're using, be sure you subscribe there if it's possible, follow us there if it's possible, and then turn on notifications so you don't miss a new episode. Then for those of you on YouTube, which we're growing like crazy, again, over 3,000 on our way to 3,100 subscribers. Be sure you like this video. All right, that helps get it out to the world and let other people see it. Other Indiana fans find our content. And comment down below your thoughts on Oumar Ballo. We're getting into him right now. What do you think he can do? What's the limit, or what's the potential of Oumar Ballo as he was given preseason love? We're going to get to that in just a second, but I want to hear your thoughts initially on Oumar Ballo. And then the best thing you can do for the Locked On Hoosiers podcast on YouTube is subscribe to the channel. You see our Locked On Hoosiers logo. Just to the right of it is the subscribe button. That tells me you're an everydayer. That tells me you love the content and that you want to see more of it, okay? So do those things for me. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I really do appreciate your support. Well, I mentioned Oumar Ballo starting to receive a little preseason love, a little preseason hype. The big man for Indiana, who has transferred in this offseason, has been named to the preseason All-Big Ten team. There are 10 players on this preseason conference team, basically just a preseason recognition. Like, hey, we think you're going to be good this year, right? We think you're going to be pretty good. Does that mean you're going to be? No, but they have a pretty good idea. And so you look around at this team, and there's some really good players on here. Oumar Ballo and Purdue, Braden Smith, their point guard, he's on this list. He was named Big Ten Player of the Year preseason. So those two guys are on there. Ace Baldwin from Penn State, the point guard. Brooks Barnheiser, the guard from Northwestern. Dawson Garcia from Minnesota. Dylan Harper at Rutgers. We know that name. Great Osabor from Washington. He's a beast, right? He's a really good big man. Peyton Sanford from Iowa. Jackson Shellstad, hope I said that right, from Oregon. And Bruce Thornton from Ohio State. And look, there's a lot of players that didn't make this list that are really, really good at other programs. But there are a lot of good players at Indiana that didn't make this list, which tells me I think we have a lot to prove. I think this team, this roster, has a lot to prove this season, whether it be transfers, returnees, or incoming freshmen, that we have a lot to prove to the outside world, to the conference, to college basketball. Because let's be real, Mackenzie Mbako could be on this list by the end of the year. Miles Rice and Cannon Carlisle did an episode on them yesterday. If you missed that, go check it out. They could be on this list. I think you could really start talking about certain guys on this team that have a chance to be preseason, or be all Big Ten type of players. And so the fact that we have one is great. Oumar Ballo absolutely deserves to be on this list. And he's standing next to Great Osabor, who is a really solid player from Washington. Oumar Ballo is a beast, man. And we saw what he did in the Pac-12 during his career. And now he's going to bring that to Indiana. And we just talked about how the Hoosiers are changing their offense a little bit, right? We're trying to change our identity. But at the end of the day, we still are going to ground and pound inside and get it to the big man. When in doubt, get inside, right? Get it to the block, get it to a big man, and let him go to work. And that's what the game plan is going to be for Oumar Ballo. You could say the same thing with Malik Renew. Forgot to mention him a second ago. Like, there are names on this list, on this roster, that are not in the recognition preseason of the Big Ten. But how could you could say our starting five could be on this list by the end of the year. I think it's that good. But for Ballo in particular, he's big, he's physical, he's strong. I think he needs to get a little bit more physical. That's the one thing we've heard from him coming from Arizona, is has tended to be on the softer side at times. That's got to get better. That has to be better if Oumar Ballo wants to be a dominant big man in the Big Ten, because guess what? Everybody else is physical. Everybody else is not afraid to throw some shoulders, throw some elbows, bang around, and get position offensively or defensively. So he's going to figure it out really quick. He is. He's going to find out really quick. And I'm not saying that he's not going to be. I'm just telling you what we've heard since he transferred from Arizona. We've got to get that out. And if he's a physical guy down there and can earn his spot and earn his way to the line and earn points and get fouls on the other team and then get those easy buckets, right? In quotations, they look easy, but they're not. Then yeah, he's going to be a really good player. And he's going to be a top 10 player in the Big Ten this season. And the Indiana Hoosiers must rely on him. Not every possession, not every single time, not when you're down by 15. But I think early in games, you continue to go down low. Get it to Ballo. Get it to Renew. When these guys come in, get it to Hatton. Get it to Goody. Whoever the case may be. Heck, even get it to McKenzie and Bacco to get down in the lane. Mike Woodson is going to try and change this thing. But what you're going to see is he's still an old school coach. And old school coaches have a really hard time changing the way they do things, especially early on. And it's going to be really easy against some of these weaker opponents to let Ballo eat and go off and have 20 points and 10 rebounds. Like, yeah, you can do that against those opponents. But where we've got to change and be a little bit different is when we get into Big Ten play, when we're playing legitimate teams who have just as much talent as we do. We saw a year ago, ground and pound and getting 60 points in the paint doesn't win basketball games in 2024 in the Big Ten. It didn't do it in 2023. And ain't nothing changed in that regard from year to year. You can get points inside. And when it's there, you take it. And Ballo's going to have to get some big-time buckets for us this year. But you've got to be able to knock it down from the outside. And I'm not talking about Ballo. I'm talking about other guys on this team. The offense has to be able to orchestrate and run itself and operate in multiple different facets and have multiple identities. We were a one-man band. We were a one-play show a year ago. It worked. It was effective, but we just couldn't keep up. And if a team was able to stop it, we were doomed. Khalil Ware was great, but man, we went back to that well so many times. We were licking the bottom of it, looking for anything, and teams figured that out. They figured it out very early, and that's why we struggled in so many basketball games. Oumar Ballo could be the anchor of this team in a good way. He can be all reliable. He can be the guy you go to when you need a bucket down late in the game. But you have Ballo, you have Renew, you have Mbako, you have Carlisle, and you have Rice. That's your starting five with shooters on the bench, big guys on the bench, and athletes on the bench. This team has the ability, is what I'm telling you, Hoosier fans. The talent is there. The ability is there to be a dynamic type of offense. You don't have to be one-dimensional anymore. I think at times in the past you did. I don't think you had the guard play to be an elite shooting team, to be a fast-running offensive team. But now you do. Now you do. And Oumar Ballo is going to be a huge part of this, but he doesn't have to be the only one. Use your resources, Woody. Use the guys you brought in. You did it for a reason. Use them to your advantage. It starts with Oumar Ballo, who's preseason all Big Ten. I think other guys are going to be on this list by the end of this season, but you just got to use them to your advantage if you're Indiana and Mike Woodson. Well, coming up on our final segment of Locked On Hoosiers, a little bit of football news. Got a transfer portal, not addition, subtraction, I guess. We got a receiver that entered the transfer portal, which was a big name to start the year, but has fizzled out through the first few games. We'll talk about that and what it means coming up on our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, like I do, you can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your live bets. It's all at FanDuel.com. You can look at any stat. You can literally track the game as it's happening and live bet it right there on FanDuel.com. I do it all the time. Did it for Monday Night Football. I'm going to do it for Thursday Night Football. And then Sunday, I've got all the games going, and I've got FanDuel pulled up on my laptop. It's the best way to spend a Sunday afternoon. You can now get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So go to FanDuel.com. They're going to give you $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here again, all my everydayers. I see you, I hear you, and I really do appreciate you. And if it's your first time here at Locked On Hoosiers, I thank you as well. And I hope you come back and enjoy the content here. Audio listeners, video watchers, however you take in the Locked On Hoosiers podcast, I really do appreciate you and your daily support. This is your first listen and your first watch every day. I know that. You can tell me if you want to, but I know it is. If you're looking for your second watch or second listen, though, it's time to start checking out Locked On College Basketball. Isaac and Andy, all right, they do a fantastic job. Andy, Pat, and Isaac Shade, they do a wonderful job talking about all things college basketball, the biggest storylines right now. I think the national storyline, how about Gonzaga finally deciding to go to a big boy conference? Woohoo, about time. It only took them a million years. And they're going to the Pac-12, a conference that was dying, basically dead. And so they finally decided, oh, okay, we'll go to a big conference now that it's weak and all the good teams left. Whatever. Don't get me started on Gonzaga. I like Andy. He does the Gonzaga podcast, but man, do not have time for that today. They will talk about a lot of that, though, on Locked On College Basketball, so go check them out. Tell them that Jacob sent you from Locked On Hoosiers, okay? They would really appreciate to see you, and they do a great job covering all things college basketball. All right, final segment here on the show, and want to flip over to football just for a few minutes for Indiana. Yes, we're getting ready for Northwestern this weekend. Hey, reminder here on the channel, we're going to have our Big Ten squad episode coming out on Thursday, so be sure you check that out. Lots of fun content there. We talk about the Hoosiers being 5-0. We talk about us possibly being 6-0, and I give Jay from Locked On Buckeyes a little something since we got to go play there later this year, so keep an eye out for that. But in terms of football, we are getting ready for Northwestern this weekend, and we're going to take on the Wildcats down a receiver, Donoven McCulley. If you remember that name, he was pretty big last year for this Indiana team. He was a guy that the Hoosiers relied on quite a bit down the stretch a year ago when quarterback Sorsby really was starting to figure it out a little bit. He was a go-to guy. Donoven McCulley was a good receiver for this Hoosier squad, had 4 or 5 scores down the stretch a year ago and in the back half of the season. And when he entered the portal, right, when previous coaching staff was let go, everybody was gone, Coach Allen was gone, he entered the portal. And then Curt Cignetti showed up and I think did a really good job to save him, to bring him back to Indiana. He withdrew his name from the portal, and he stayed with the Hoosiers. And we thought, wow, Donoven McCulley's going to be a really, really good teammate on this team. He's going to be, it almost felt like an addition because we thought he was gone, right? We thought that he was not going to be a part of this team. And then it was like, wow, all right, he's going to be on here. He's going to be a leader, one of the best receivers that we have. And it just didn't play out that way. Didn't play out that way at all. We had some updates from Cignetti back in the spring and even through the summer that, McCulley wasn't performing up to the standard that Cignetti wanted and that he had to kind of change some things. And look, reading between the lines here and just talking to a few folks, just sounds like this wasn't working out. Sounds like this relationship just wasn't good. And it's unfortunate because you see this quite a bit in college athletics. When there's a coaching change, when one administration leaves and another one steps in, a lot of the previous players from the previous staff who had it their way, right, had it and knew it one way and they were comfortable and they had their system. And I'm not just talking in game. I'm talking your everyday life, getting up, going to practice, going to class, routine, expectations, right? You get settled in and you get comfortable. And when somebody else comes in, all of that gets thrown off. And you are expected to change based off that new shot caller, based off the new boss. And that is Curt Cignetti. And I think we can all agree that there's a major difference in culture right now with Curt Cignetti than what we've seen in decades at Indiana. And I think McCulley just got caught up in all that. I really do. I think he just got caught up in not wanting to change, not wanting to be a different type of player, not wanting to have higher expectations and higher standards. And I think him and Curt Cignetti just kind of butt heads a little bit, and it just didn't work out. And I think it was a mutual agreement to say, hey, man, you've only played in 4 games. You missed one because of injury. Hit the portal, take your red shirt, and best of luck to you. And you know what? It is what it is. I hate to see it. I hope it works out for the guy, but I just have a feeling that that's what's happened here. Good news is for Indiana, I guess good news is McCulley had only caught a handful of passes. He caught one this past Saturday, 12 yards. But you've got a lot of proven guys already this year. You've still got Surratt and Cooper and Price. Like, you have these types of guys, even Horton and Cross. I mean, guys that caught passes this Saturday. You've got plenty of guys in there. Now, if they start getting injured and things, then yeah, you're in trouble, but we're not wishing that and not hoping for that, just playing all the odds here, right? But you've got guys in there. So do I hate to see McCulley leave? Do I hate to see the fact that we're losing somebody in the portal in the middle of the year? I know it doesn't open until early December, but he's not even on the roster anymore. He's not even on the team. I think it got kind of bad here. I hate to see it happen, and I hope the best for McCulley in the future, but I'm not worried because our receiver room is still really, really good. Surratt was our Roy Player of the Week this week. I mean, the guy had over 100 yards receiving for Indiana in a 42-point performance. We are going to be just fine as long as we keep running the ball effectively, running it enough. Look, I'm always going to say run the ball more. I'm a big running guy. I think it establishes everything and opens everything up throughout a football game. But we're doing it enough. We're doing it enough, and we're throwing it all over the yard. And I absolutely love it because we've got a gunslinger at quarterback with Curtis Rourke, who, yeah, he had some turnovers Saturday. How does he bounce back this coming Saturday against Northwestern? We'll have more for you on that as the week goes on. Couple of days left throughout the week. Indiana takes on Northwestern, a much-deserved bye, and then Nebraska comes to town. More on that throughout this week and next week as well. More basketball updates. Who knows what's going to happen in recruiting? Some practice updates as well for Indiana basketball. So all of that will be coming the rest of this week and into next week here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Be sure you do those things for me, the checklist, really, really quick on YouTube. Like the video. Comment down below. Who is your favorite receiver right now? Who's the best receiver on this Indiana football team right now? I want to hear your comments or want to hear your thoughts. See your comments down below. That's more like it. So like the video, comment down below, and the best thing you can do is subscribe to our channel, okay? Right there next to the Locked On Hoosiers logo, just to the right, hit that subscribe button for me. You become an everydayer, and it means the world to me. We are back tomorrow, okay, Hoosier fans? So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.